Hello, good evening, everyone. Welcome to join the career talk today. So let me Okay, so hi everyone. Maybe you can say hi in the chat to us. So let me know
Hi.
where are you joining from. And we have Candy here today. Okay. So we will give everyone like another minute to let other people join, and we will officially start. Hi. Okay, I see a lot of hi, and also see a lot of familiar names here. Hi, Amir. Hi, hi, Honey. Hi, Shami. Hi, Ami. Hello, hello. So I hope you all had dinner and sitting comfortably here. Okay. So today, I'm very happy to have Candy here. So Candy is working remotely at Automattic as co-wrangler. Uh, I'm not I'm not quite sure what co-wrangler means. Maybe Candy can share with us later. And so actually she has a background in marketing and biotechnology, if I'm not mistaken. And she actually defined a convention and forged her way to becoming an engineer. So today, Candy is here to share her insight and not just about the code and technology, but also about the journey that brought her here. So without further ado, I would like to invite Candy to take on this virtual stage and inspire us with her journey. But before that, let's give a virtual applause to Candy. Welcome her. So you can put that in the chat. And I just want to remind everyone, once again, this is an interactive session, so feel free to drop your question in the chat anytime, not until the end of the session. So you can drop your question anytime, and then we can answer you in the session like anytime you ask. Okay, so Candy, can you firstly start introduce yourself a bit?
Okay. Hi. Hi, Peggy. Thanks. I think you kind of covered a lot of stuff that I was about to say. I'm Candy and I'm based in Taiwan. And as Peggy mentioned, I'm a code wrangler at Automattic. It's just a fancy name for software engineer. So, yeah, that's what it means. And then Automattic is the company behind WordPress.com, Tumblr, Gravatar, and many other products. And the company has been fully distributed from day one. Oh, day one is also another product that's under our company. And then it just also means that everyone here works remotely from all over the world across all time zones. And so a little bit more about on my end. I'm, as Peggy mentioned, from marketing and biotechnology originally, and then I gradually took steps into the software engineering path, and then gradually took steps into the remote working situation right now that I'm here to share with all of you today. So happy to be here, and yeah, thanks Peggy for inviting me here today.
Okay, thank you for your introduction. So, as we, as you mentioned, also as I mentioned, so you have the marketing biotechnology background, right? So, what ignite you to kind of lead you to transition, become a software engineer? But I know it's like a kind of journey because you think if I remember correctly, and you firstly you study in marketing, then transit to biotechnology, then become an engineer. So can you maybe tell us a bit like how what how I mean how did you like decide like decide to make your career transition 2 times?
Well, they're like more of not like trans it doesn't feel like a transition when it's happening. So originally got into marketing. That one is pretty simple. It's like here in Taiwan, you take the college entrance exam and then basically you get your score and then you kind of just pick some schools. You don't really have an idea what it's doing. Marketing sounds cool. Okay, let's put that in. And then yeah, so that's how I got into marketing. So and then after being in the curriculum at school for like around 2 years, I think that it's not really for me because I feel like my personality is not fit with like I can imagine when I graduate, I need to go into the marketing field. Doesn't feel right. So at least at that time, I looked around, and then I chose biotechnology just because the university I attended was pretty famous for biology stuff. And then I was like, oh, why not? Let's just explore that. And um, that's how I kind of pivoted over. And then after um, like another 3 years of study, and I decided to go to graduate school. And it was at graduate school where my lab was inside the computer science department. The professor that I went with has like a broad variety of students, and then I was one of them. And then I got more in touch with stuff in the computer. So that's kind of how it gradually, as from like a academic standpoint, that's kind of how like I touched a little bit on it. But the main thing to do like the transition into more software engineering role was when I was doing an internship. And it was during the internship I actually started to write some code. So initially, this is also kind of a funny story. Initially, the position I was doing for was actually like copy editing, translating, and stuff like that. Because the company that I interned with was a like English education company. So I kind of write blog posts like, oh, the 10 words you must know, and blah blah blah, those kind of things. And then what happened was that we had in our process, we had to format documents, and we were doing like HTML formatting in Google Doc, which kind of sucked. And so I wrote a small code, like a small program that kind of did that automatically. And then it's a small startup, so the CEO just reached out and said, "Hey, Candy, do you want to like become a web developer intern?" And I was like, and he said, "I'll pay you a little bit more than that." I was like, "Okay, sure, why not?" And so that's kind of the first, I would say, the seed to doing the transition. And I'm pretty lucky because, as I mentioned, I was in like lab in a lab that was in the computer science department, so I had a lot of people to ask, and it was like pre like boot camp era where you don't get that many online courses, so resources all around you is really important.
Hey, thank you. So, I mean, for me, it sounds like it happened really like naturally, right? It's like, have you had a really like a tough time to make a decision, like to have your career transition?
Tough time. I would say I'm more of a go with the flow person. Um, so it's like it happened and then it happened. But to be honest, a tough time would be transitioning the mindset would be a little bit harder because before when you were doing editorial work, um, translation work, it feels like you put in the time, you see kind of the output. But with coding, it's a little bit different. It's like you put in the time and you might tomorrow come up with a better idea and just scratch everything from yesterday. So yeah, that was a little bit tough at the beginning.
Okay. And like, so speaking of like learning coding, so do you, what are the key like resource or strategy you use to learn coding since you kind of coming from a totally different background, right? So although I know it's because your lab is in the Department of Computer Science, it sounds very handy because you can kind of ask people around you. But like how it's also like how did you stay motivated throughout the whole like learning journey?
So I can start with the motivation part. It's mostly if you're building something that is useful to you. So I guess this comes with like if you're taking courses, you might be building something that the course is teaching you, but not necessarily you're really like the project that you build. And that would kind of be a little bit more demotivated. So for me, I would say to keep the motivation high is to build something that's even though if you're the only user, but it's personal to you, you find it useful, or maybe like you and a couple, like 3, 4 friends find them useful, um, then that is something that will keep you motivated, like throughout their journey. For example, if you're um, working in like a repair shop, you see like there's something that's not so good in the system that's working over there. Maybe you could build like a clone of that, and that also would help. So for me, I started with also something that I felt would be useful for me, for the formatting tool, for example. So I would say motivation kind of equals to if you find this is actually sort of changing your life a little bit already, and then yeah, who doesn't get motivated for life-changing stuff?
That's true. So what you mean is that it's kind of like building your own side project. That's what you mean?
Yeah, and also, to touch on, like, the learn coding part, it's like I was really bad at the beginning, like, I used to name my variables like A, B, and C, the things that the tutorials tell you not to do, so it's like, while learning, like, you're motivated enough to, like, figure out, like, the next day when you wake up, what was that A you did yesterday? Yeah.
Okay. Another thing I'm also curious because since you mentioned about building a side project, right? Did you always do that by yourself, or you prefer like you maybe you find a couple of friends who are also in the same field and you um start maybe building something together? So can you share a bit your experience?
Yeah, for building something together, I feel personally it's, um I used to do a program, but I kind of, like, dropped out of it. It was called, if I remember correctly, it was called Chingu, and then it's a program where you can get together with a couple of people and build a project together, and I joined that at the very first, like, up front, but then I find what it's hard, to build side projects with people that you don't know because you kinda met them and then you got paired, automatic you don't really know them, and then it's like you have to first come up with an idea that the 4 of you are very motivated about, and that's already itself is already pretty hard. So, from my experience, I would say most of my side project is just only me because I feel like I wake up one day, I feel like, "Oh, I wanna do this," and then I start doing it, and then sometimes they're usually not big projects, so you can finish them within a week, and then you feel like, "Okay, this is good
Mm.
enough for me to use," and you kind of put it on GitHub. You don't know who will see it, but, like, you just put it out
Mm.
there, and it's like, yeah, if someone asks me, "Do I have any open source projects?" I can paste that, why not? Yeah.
Oh, that's nice. Yeah, but I think what I want to also maybe share with the audience is like I want to ask, do you think it's important to like build your own portfolio? Like you say, you put your project on GitHub, right? So do you think that's actually quite important to, no matter if you are already in this industry, like even you already start working as a like an engineer, you still need to keep building your own portfolio. What's your opinion on this?
So before getting into it, I would say if you're put like want to put your foot in a door or like step into the industry, having that portfolio is important. And usually when you submit your like resume or apply to jobs, people will take a look at the portfolio, and if it's even if you don't get like a lot of stars on GitHub, but it's something that when I take a look at it, oh, this doesn't look like course material. You build this thing for yourself. It kind of already advocates the fact that you like to code, or the fact that you are like motivated to do this. But when I take a look at it, it's like, oh, this looks like a course project. And I give a quick search on the project name. You didn't even change the project name. I find like 30 um, Connect Four projects or something, 30 memory game projects. And then I would know this is something that's only you're doing it for like the homework or stuff. And that kind of sets apart the difference. So yeah, side projects are important. And I kind of feel side projects that are personal to you is also a nice touch to your portfolio.
Okay, thank you for your answer. Actually, we have some question in the chat, so let's maybe can start answering some of the questions. So start from Alex. So Alex has two questions. So any suggestion for programming for beginner to start learning? So any such, I think the question is a bit general, but I'm not sure. Candy, do you have any suggestion?
I would say, first of all, just do it. Pick something and then dive into it. Don't like just stay on the sides and then just keep on saying, I'm going to learn this. So dive into it as the first thing. And then when you're just beginning, remember that if you feel there will be times that I felt like I was really stupid or something, like why did I like mistype this word? Like for example, the variable was like I'm just making it up, but like store. And then I missed an O, and then at the like bottom somewhere I'm referencing to that variable, and I typed it the correct way, and then it's not showing up on the page. And then you keep on looking at stuff, a couple of hours passed, and then all of a sudden you go to the bathroom and come back, and then you found there was a typo there, and it's like, oh dang, that's like really stupid. So these things happen, and I would say they still happen till this day, but like this day you would like immediately check. So you're much faster. Probably like what took you 2 hours now takes you like 20 seconds. So starting learning, like every step of the way, just remember someone was in your shoes before, and don't get discouraged. Because the thing is, sometimes you get really discouraged, and that gets you demotivated, and then you kind of just want to stop for the day. Yeah. So I would say embrace all the mistakes and just remember everyone did them before.
Thank you. And actually, another question from Alex. Do you news that AI can replace junior engineer positions? What do you think? That's a very interesting
Ooh, this is a
question.
tough one. Yeah, this is a tough one.
Yeah.
I would say, like if you want AI to build something from scratch, right now, like for example, you wanted to build, as I mentioned, like a memory game or something, you directly ask it, it'll give you code that actually runs, and then you have that memory game. But the harder thing right now for AI is I already have a code base there, and I want to make changes to the code. And so at this point, I know there are already tools that can like index your code base and do like go into it and then kind of write code. But most of the time, it's not going to work right out of the box. There's someone there that needs to tweak it. And but the question now back is you mentioned like junior engineer position roles. I would say it will be more competitive than before because, to be honest, if you're thinking this way, sometimes the boss of a company is also thinking this way. So they're thinking maybe we can hire less engineers and let them, pair with AI and have more productivity. So because not every boss comes from a technical background. They don't know like how difficult it is to be in the code, like all the legacy code. And so they would just think that way. And they said, like, for example, your manager wants 3 headcounts. They think one is enough. That's kind of what might happen. But overall, I would say this is where what I just mentioned, everything before, like what sets you apart is you're more motivated than the other candidates. Your projects, they're very personal and useful, and then people will just look at it and know that you're very passionate about this. And I think passion, motivation, and the willingness to learn, and you already demonstrated all of that is super important for a junior engineer position because that sometimes might be even more important than how much do you really know right now. Like if you're solving just a leak code solving machine, that sets you apart as well.
Thank you for answering because I think it's not only one time Candy mentioned motivation and your passion about the about coding. So I guess it's just very important. And so I hope we answer your question, Alex. And next is Amir. So how did you figure which path software engineering did you wanted to focus on? Like, you want back end or front end? So, yes, Candy.
Yeah. This one was pretty easy for me because as I mentioned, I started out with a project that only had to do with formatting text, so it's pretty front end stuff. And then the next, I got the web developer intern kind of internship, and then so most of the stuff it was kind of already decided for me. I did a Chrome extension, and then the Chrome extension basically, if you're not talking, basically it runs your browser. So basically, that's also front end. So with um, all the combined skill sets, I was set to be like a um, front end dev as a start. And so coming into like my real full time or like well, all the jobs are real. Like my first full time first full time position, it was more I got it because I had shown like strong skill sets in front end. But during that job, the 3+ years I was there, I got a chance to do some back end work and also work with a lot of DevOps stuff. So for like example, you would see Kubernetes deployment, Docker, and all those things. I got to touch them. So that made me become more well-rounded. To the point that my second full-time job that I went into, it was a pure back-end position where I almost didn't write a single line of JavaScript code for like the whole entire year. So I would say right now, it's like just general. I always say like I care more about like what product I'm doing rather than the stack that I'm going into because you would know in entering the career, it's always you have to learn everything on the job always, even if you're like 10+ years into the field. Um, I've also heard that from engineers even more senior than I am. I asked them and they said they're still learning every day or not every day, every week. So yeah, it's was that the question? How did I figure out? I didn't actually figure it out. It actually like was assigned to me. Yeah.
And at least you don't, I mean, at least I think you still love what you are doing. That's very important.
I would say it's still super fun and yeah, and seeing like all the stuff working or breaking, always fun.
And fix it.
Yeah, and fixing. You're kind of fixing stuff, breaking things, and you have more things to do tomorrow.
Yeah. And another question from me also. So what I think this is very important question. Thank you for asking me. So what kind of portfolio project that you think it can grab attention?
Ooh, so I guess this also kind of echoes to your last question. How do you figure out which part? I did something that at that time I observed, and a lot of the front end engineers, they don't really like doing styling or CSS work. So I kind of focused myself a little bit on like CSS when I was just entering the field. And I think I read like a couple of books on that. So I got like really um, more expertise in that area. And so I did a couple of projects that was, there's the site called CodePen, and you can go on it and do some CSS work. A lot of I would say there's a lot of really cool CSS projects on there, and then so if you also kinda do a couple of those, then it'll really, like, shine as a portfolio project because nobody else, would do that. Because I think most projects right
Mm.
now are more like, you connect to a database, you read, write, and do stuff from it. Unless that project, like I mentioned before, is super personal to you. For example, you have a family business and then you build something for that and you're currently using it in your business, then these are all projects that would grab attention of the employer. Like you have to treat it more like a product instead of like your um, side, sandbox you're playing with. So you can treat everything like a product, having a good README file, everything, trying to make the person that clicked on your project like, wow, this person is serious about this thing. That really grabs the attention of the employer because if you're serious about something you're doing on the side, that means you're definitely going to be serious in a job, or at least somewhat serious about it.
Yeah, thank you for answering the question, Candy. So I hope that answer your question, Amir. So, okay, let me see. I think I now just to make sure I'm not missing any questions. But feel free to any question, everyone. And so where are we now? So I think we kind of talk about quite a lot about uh, technical part, I would say. And
Not
so
that technical.
the not that tech, I mean, for me, it's already quite technical. And I think another part of this session I want to touch upon is about I think uh, I'm not sure is it the the position the work you're doing not in automatic is your second full-time job? I mean, after you becoming an engineer, is that correct?
It's the it's the 3rd one, but you're pretty close.
Oh, okay, the
Like,
third.
there's only 3,
Okay,
you can't
the third
guess,
one.
like, 2 wrong.
Yeah. So
No worries.
yeah. So I'm just wondering how did you like making the journey like oh, okay, becoming a engineer and after that, how what's what I mean, of course we all want to change to the better position and now you work remotely, right? So I think from working in a I mean physical office to become uh remote worker, so it's kind of different. And just can you share a bit like what's the I mean, is there any unique challenge or advantage I would say of working remotely, especially like I think the head office in US or of course all your colleagues may be working from different countries in the world. So how 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 do you cope with that?
Okay, I can kind of split the question into 2 parts. One is
Yeah.
from, um, working in an office and then going remote. That didn't, like, happen in a day for me, so, like, um my first job, it was, um, completely in the office, and at that time, I actually wanted to work remotely right from the start when I started working because I that was like my super like clear goal. That was like I really wanted to have the opportunity. Like pre-pandemic, I was already like 100% wanted to go remote like in the future. So I would say maybe about the other stuff I go went with the flow, but for going remote, I did this like with intention. When I was still at my first job, there was a internship opportunity. It's called Outreachy, and then this opportunity is actually if you're into open source software, it's like other open source projects will come to this program. It's kind of like Google Summer of Code. You can like search that if you're not sure of, and then Google Summer of Code. The other one is called Outreachy, and then this one it doesn't limit you to be a student. And at that time, I was already working, so I decided to apply to that. And then if I got picked or my application got accepted, I would just like quit my job and then go with this because the internship with open source, as you know, it's remote and it's only for 3 months. And I was like, okay, I'm gonna like in those 3 months, I'm gonna try to find like a position. But you know, okay, going back to the flow, it's like my manager at that time, he was like, "Okay, it's an internship for 3 months. What are you gonna do after that?" And so, actually, he just approved my leave for work, so it means that my position will still be there if I come back. And that's kind of like the funny thing is, like, you get lazy and stuff. But during the 3 months of the remote work, I find myself, like, I kind of enjoy being at home, doing all this stuff, and the first month was, like, a little bit weirdish because, like, yesterday you were still going to the office, the next day starting from the next day, you were starting to work from home, and at first you will feel like, "Okay, I'm home now, I'm free," and so you start watching Netflix until 12, 1 PM, 1 PM, 2 PM, and then I'm not trying to sugarcoat anything, but it's like I did that and then it's like, "Oh my gosh, I have not done anything." And so you start at that 2 PM mark, and then you work all the way to, like, 10 PM, 11 PM to make up for the time that like, you didn't put into in the beginning, and because it's an internship, it's also a little bit, less pressured compared to a full-time job. And so sometimes I really went with like a day or two without doing anything until like the day it was the meeting with my mentor at the internship, and I was frantically trying to come up with something or trying to do something like to turn in like a deadline or homework. So that was the first month, and until the second month, everything got a little bit more stabilized because, like, if you're not sleeping for a day and then you did nothing the other day, that's kind of like not good for the long run. So you kind of stabilize, and that was my first remote work experience. Oh, sorry, I'm making this answer very long, and then like the second time I got a chance to do remote work was when the pandemic came, and when the pandemic hit, and then I actually went back to the office. I said that my manager kept the job for me. I was lazy, so I went back, and then it was during the pandemic, and I got like going remote again. I was like, okay, this time I'm gonna be serious about this. So I started looking for work that had a hybrid mode because I was wondering if I went fully remote, was it totally okay? So I did like find try to find a hybrid position and I did. Before the pandemic, that office, they had to go in like 3 times each week and then the rest of the 2 days you can work from home. But because of the pandemic, they also changed to fully remote when I onboarded. So it just says like, okay, you're fully remote. But at least at that time, everyone was in the same time zone. Like all of my colleagues lived in Taiwan, so we can like chat in sync and have meetings in sync. Only a couple are like living in the US or outside of Taiwan. And it's like you still have to adjust the meeting times, but it's like it still feels like you're working in the your day to day, like you clock in and then you clock out at the end of the day because everybody's still in the same time zone. And so after a year of that, I was thinking, yeah, I think I'm ready to go like actually fully remote. And I researched a lot about fully remote companies where they have employees all over the world. Um, so so that was like my gradual going into fully remote. It was not like a one step thing. Like I went a little bit in a circle and then came. So
Okay.
yeah, I can.
Yes.
So the second part of the question, I still remember sort of, but I'm gonna check with Peggy. Is it like what's the difference between working in an office and working remotely? Was that the second part of the question?
Yeah, I mean, I think you answered the question, but I'm just very, I mean, quite amazed by I mean, the whole journey from the physical and because when you describe the internship you got like first in the first months you kind of like doing nothing like just wake up watch Netflix. It sounds like just a student have a summer vacation. So in in the first month, I'm not going to do any homework for summer vacation. I'm gonna have fun and then in the second month, you're right. Oh shit, I'm not doing. I'm sorry, shouldn't say that in a way that, but it's just like, oh, I'm not doing anything at all. What should I do? So just kind of quickly make up all the things you haven't done for the last month. So it's yeah, it's very interesting. And I see Amir's check. Okay, my high is a way to go. I worked remote previously, and while it was great in the first year, so it does get long, and my and productivity seriously took a dip. So, what do you think, Candy? Do you feel how long you have been working automatically, like fully remote? Like 1 year already?
So I'm already here for a year, and then the year
Oh,
before that, where I initially wanted the hybrid style, was also fully remote for a year. So probably 2 years in, and
ah,
I would say I'm okay with not going into the office. I know a lot of my friends initially they said remote work is good, but eventually lean to more hybrid. It's because they feel like they still need like go into the office, have the social kind of touch of things. But for me, I think um I'm okay with it. So yeah, it wasn't too big of an issue for me. And yeah, and one thing I could share is one thing is I do is I time box my day. So I would when I start the day, I would put like on in my calendar, it's like these 2 hours I'll be doing this, and then this other 2 hours I'll be doing that. And once you have that scheduled down, it kind of helps, like, if you're doing something completely unrelated and you look back at the calendar, you will, know that we're not on the schedule. So that helps visually, having something there visually helps. And the other thing is I time myself for everything. So I have a timer. So if I'm starting to work, I turn that timer on. So at the end of the day, you are really sure that how many hours you've worked. And that also sends a cue. Like if you're already working, like if your timer already says 8 hours, then you know you have to stop. So that's also a very good tactic that I feel like that's working for me for like after figuring things out for the first year. So that's kind of how it's stabilized.
okay. Thank you for sharing the technique you use for your productivity. So, but I'm not sure because I think for me it sounds like more like what you need to be very disciplined if you work remotely. Like you have to figure out also know um the time you spend on what all the things you do. Otherwise, like time just flies and it just gone so quickly every day.
Yeah, that's true. And um I feel like compared to an office work, sometimes when you're just sitting in the office and really doing nothing, but you still like give yourself a pat on the back and said, you know, I came to the office, I'm working, and then you don't have that guilt. But if you're sitting at home and then you decided to take a nap or something, and then that 2 hours went past, you feel guilty about that. Like if you take a nap in the office for 2 hours, if they let you, like you're not as guilty as if you're doing that at home. For me, it feels that way. So I try to time everything and make sure that okay, this I'm doing my part. But sometimes, yeah, some days it will slip, and then I would also work all the way until like 1 a.m. or something. But as long as at the end of the day you have something like you've done your part, um, yeah, that's always a good thing to like, hey, this is good.
I also see Sammy say, okay, I agree with Sammy. Hybrid is a way to go. Get the best out of both worlds. So having social interaction, engagement, and sometimes you can also work from home very comfortably. Yeah, I agree with that. Yeah, and I think just to remind everyone, if you have any question, just feel free to drop in the chat. Otherwise, I'll just start chatting with Candy by ourselves. And I
No
also and
problem.
another yeah, and another thing I also want to know is since you work in a very internationalized company, and is there any challenge when you work with people from different countries? I would say culture issue, like how do you like figure out to work with your colleagues?
Mm, I would say, for me, I feel like it was more about, like, culturally, I feel because, at Automattic, everyone is kind of sort of aware that, we're coming from different cultures. So sometimes if you, like, do something or, like, talk, they kind of keep in mind that maybe this is the norm in your cultural background, unless you feel like unless you are actually attacked or uncomfortable about it, people usually, like, focus more on the work itself, like, we do a lot of asynchronous communication, which means it's all written in text. And so sometimes like the text already takes the tone out of things. So one thing that a lot of I think we do more than at least at my previous company, which was we have a lot more emojis. Like if you look at this like the Slack emoji things, I think we have like around more than 10,000 emojis, like, custom added. So people are really trying to be, like, um um, let's say, aware of that we're missing out the tone and context and everything, so we try to create a culture where, um, like, we can feel comfortable to work in, and so far, for the past year, I don't really think that, I've experienced a culture shock that is big enough for me to remember right now. So, but there is one that is in a good way. So they have this channel. We have a channel called Yelling inside Slack, and all you can do is you talk in capital letters, which is really fun. And when I found that channel, I was like, "Oh, I'm gonna stay here for like a long time. It's a good place." And then in that channel, a lot of people would draw their own emojis and stuff and do a lot of fun stuff. So that was a quite a shock because um, working in a company feels kind of serious and stuff, but this is a place where you feel like everybody is chilling out and like yelling like every Monday and saying like, "Yay, let's get that bread" or something. So,
Yeah,
yeah, to
that's
answer your
sounds really
question,
interesting.
culturally,
Yes.
yeah. Sorry. Yeah.
No, yeah, I think it's very, I would say it's very interesting to work with people from different cultural background, and but it just sometimes just need to be a bit aware of like also like because people from different cultural backgrounds, so maybe the way they talk is maybe quite different from yours. And so actually, I also have another question I want to ask is, since you have like different official academic background, so So looking back, so what skill or perspective from your previous background do you find most valuable in your current role as a engineer? Because I believe many of our students they are also looking for career transition, and they are from different background. But I think it's also very important to take something you have learned with you into future. So what do you think from what do you feel like are the most valuable or skill or value you take from your previous background?
I would say being 2 years in the marketing department really um, changed me a lot in terms of communication. So before, even till this day, I'm still considered like if I meet someone like in real life, I'm a very shy person. And on the internet a little bit better, so I can, like, be here and talk, but, like, I would say, the 2 years in marketing, you have to do a lot of things, like, you really need to if they need to do, like, marketing research, you really need to go out into the field and then actually interview people. That was, like thinking back, I still remember it because it's just so painful memory, but because you've gone through that um, uncomfortableness. So right now, like just talking with people online or something doesn't seem that scary anymore. So I would say it's more about like the communication and around um like being around people thing, and I gained it's like a soft skill that came from the marketing department, although at the end of the day I still ran away from it, but like I took a little bit of that, like maybe the people there that they're like out of 10, they're really great with that. I'm like maybe a 5 right now, but maybe before entering I was like a 1 or something. So yeah, I guess that's one thing. And then for for biotechnology, I came to really appreciate how things like you can do a lot of stuff in a computer because when you are like actually trying to do like experiments in the lab, sometimes that one ingredient that was failing you, you did not know that until you separated everything out, and then 1 month passed just because biology experiments take time. It's like counts as 1 week at a time. And so I came to really appreciate how much testing, trial and error you can just do in a computer in one like single bit of time. And you have a little bit more patient. I wouldn't say I'm super patient, but a little bit more patient if I didn't go through that even more painful experience. So I guess it's both are like coming from a little bit of trauma, I guess.
Thank you for sharing that because I think because as you mentioned the communication skill, right? Because I think that's I would say a lot of engineer or I mean a lot of people who want to become an engineer don't don't prefer to talk to people that much, but maybe you can share a bit like it's the communication skill like for an engineer is it important like how can a communication skill can help you in at work?
So you're putting the question in a space that I have to say, yes, it's useful. Nobody would say no, communication is not that important. But yeah, it's important. And I would say, like people have kind of stereotype like engineers because they work with machines, they don't like they can't communicate as well, but I say that's kind of wrong because the reason I said it was useful for me because personally, like my personality was not that good with people coming in, so that really helped me. But with a lot of engineers, they're actually pretty good communicators. Especially they're really clear on their communication sometimes. They try to be very explicit about everything they talk. So you try to minimize the chance where people will misunderstand you and um, but I think one thing they do really good is they don't take things like very personally. They know we're all talking about this issue. We're trying to fix the problem. Let's not point fingers at like Peggy, it's you who wrote that ugly
Mm.
code, and now you need to fix it. Nobody does that. So I would say, um, yeah, it's important. And how is it important? It's like knowing like what you're communicating to. We're always communicating about the situation rather than or the situation or the process rather than pointing fingers and just blaming each other and creating that negativity.
Okay. Thank you for sharing that. I think it's very important. I mean, of course, it's not just for engineering, it's for all occupations. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. And we
definitely.
have another question from here. So if you had to relearn how to code, what would you do differently to make your coding journey smoother? That's also a very nice question.
Oh, if it's today, learning, if it's in the context of today, I would say it would be way more smoother because there's so many courses out there. There's so many resources out there. Even like if I don't want to go to resources that costs money, there's so much on YouTube compared to let's say 7 years ago, like 6, 7 years ago. So I would say it would definitely be a lot smoother. But the hurdles that I just mentioned, like you stare at something for a whole day and you come back at like you spot it right on, those sorts of experiences, you still have to go through them. But with all the resources around, like there's a lot of people sharing that this is totally normal. So if I had known that, it's like you wouldn't doubt yourself that much through the process, and you know that you're just going through something that everyone is going through, and that really helps give you a stronger mental mindset. So I guess that's the part that's going to feel a little bit more smoother.
Mm, thank you. So I guess what you mean is that it is normal if you feel uh yourself like you feel the learning journey if you sometimes you feel it's very stressful or like why am I so stupid that make this mistake? It's totally normal.
Yeah, because before there wasn't really that many places that are telling you that, or like, for example, right now, here you also have a community where like you invite some people to speak here, like for example, and then I tell you this, and then you would know, oh yeah, this is totally okay. So yeah, I guess that's a huge difference that I feel. Like right now, the community is so strong.
Mm, thank you. And I hope that answer your question, Amir. And so I think we because we are coming to the top of hour, so it's end of the session. So do you have any advice or encouragement would you like to give our audience? They are looking for a career transition. Like
Oh,
if
encouragement.
they you
I'm
want
not good
yeah,
with that.
you want them to take away something from this session that for the 1 hour maybe they are going to forget for what you say for the last like 15 minutes, but the last thing you want them to take away, what would be that? What's the message you want to give?
Yeah, I would say, always remember to, keep learning and then do like, if you think of something that could like, in your life, that could be solved with a little bit of coding and stuff, just do it, and then and put that onto your portfolio. It definitely will work, somewhere or another. If someone doesn't, you will definitely find someone that appreciates it, even if you put like something that you feel it's completely useless to someone else on GitHub, then one day you still like, why do I still have like 5 stars? Who are these 5 other random people from the world? So that also kind of just is fun. And I guess the very last thing is if you're still looking, still thinking, if you're going into this, ask yourself like, if you're going to do this for, let's say, the next 10 years before you transition to something else, like, are you willing to be doing this day in, day out for the next 10 years? And if your answer is yes, I guess you got your answer yourself.
Wow, that sounds very important, very nice advice. And actually, we have a question coming up, and I think I also expect this question. I was just wondering why there's no one asked this question. So, any tips in finding a remote position, like how to apply a foreign-based company?
So the harder part is, since I heard that most of us are kind of based in the APAC region. So I would say it's a little bit harder to find remote positions. There aren't as many opportunities because a lot of them, when you look really hard on the internet, they will say they're appreciating like people in the time zone that are more US or Europe based. And then sometimes they're only like US, Canada only, or like Americas only. So definitely it's not easy to find. And what I do is I look at all, like, the products that I use, and I always go to their career page the first thing and see if this is a remote company, and then I kind of curate a list that way, and so, that's kind of how it kind of worked out. I have, like, I don't know if it's still there, but I used to have, like, a list where I would say, like, "Oh, this is the company that does this product." I can do a quick research and then create your own list that's suited for you because there's hiring, like, in other like countries, different companies would have different ways of doing that, and sometimes it gets complicated because of the taxes, the laws they need to follow. So that's why there's so many restrictions where you see when you kind of try to look for this. And for applying, it's basically the same with all the normal jobs. You just probably your resume 100% probably needs to be in English or something, but then the rest is pretty much the same.
Okay, thank you. So, you share a very interesting, I think, a very useful tip. You actually you create your own job list or like your ideal company list, and you
I
kind
wouldn't
of
say
keep checking
ideal
that.
company list because it's like so few that you just have to apply to what you find that you can. So that's yeah. To be honest, it's kind of like that.
Okay. But I mean, at least you do your homework, so you know what you're looking for and you prepare for that.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. Okay. Blossom, I hope that answer your question. So, any question before we close the session today? I will give everyone maybe another minute, and so and okay, another. I mean, from my side, one last question for Candy is, I mean, as you look ahead, so what are some of your goals in the field as an engineer? So how do you plan to continue evolving in your role? Let's say maybe in 3 to 5 years. What are you looking for?
Well, like talking through the session, I don't really think that far away. I would say I usually how to involve whatever happens here or like the product that you're working on. If you're interested in it, sometimes do a little bit more research on it, and then hopefully, like I guess a very official way to say it. Hopefully, I can make more impact on the product and stuff. And just from a software engineering side, I would say I'm not the ones that are very technical, like want to go very deep down into all the technical stuff, but I'm really interested on the product side. I want to make sure the things that I'm working on, um, it's like good use for the rest of the world, or at least for the customers that are using the product.
Okay, thank you so much. And we are on the top of hour, so we are about to close the session. And so everyone, thank you for joining tonight. I know it's late for not that late, but it's a bit late. And thank you for spending 1 hour with us. And So everyone, maybe you can say thank you to Candy as well in the chat, and there's some takeaway for you from today's session. So thank you, everyone, and have a nice evening.
Yeah, have a nice evening, have a nice day. I know it's daytime, Peggy, there, but yeah, thanks for having me. It was fun to be here.
Okay, thank you.